Welcome to episode 2 of the Out Loud Group's video, which now has a name.
Woohoo, that's exciting.
This is progress. We are now calling this Thinking Out Loud.
So welcome to Thinking Out Loud.
Once again, I'm Joel.
And I'm Brad.
So here's what we've got planned this week. It is early in 2017, so Happy New Year to you. And this is what we're looking at as we survey the landscape of 2017. We're going to start with a couple of facts today that will set the table. We're going to look at a key question of how you actually measure the ROI of the influencer campaign. We're going to look at some trends for 2017, and then we are going to do what we always do, which is my favorite part at the end, is we're going to evaluate a couple campaigns. We're going to call out what's good. We're going to call out what needs some work. So with that said, 2 key facts for 2017 is that 84% of marketers are planning to run an influencer marketing campaign in 2017. Fact number 2 is that 59% are planning to increase their budget over previous years if they in fact did already have an influencer marketing budget.
Yeah, influencer marketing is going to be huge in 2017.
It's going to be a big year.
We know all that. In fact, there's a big macro trend even on top of this, right? And that is the fact that digital marketing spend will outpace TV spend in 2017. That's a big deal.
Which is huge, which is like finally, I mean, and frankly, I mean, I think both you and I were a little bit surprised that that hadn't happened already, but this is finally the year where digital outpaces. So there are some trends here that are obvious. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll get to that in a minute. But before we get into the trends, we want to do some basic foundational stuff. Last week we talked about what influencer marketing is. We talked about what it isn't. This time we're going to really focus on the measuring the ROI of an influencer campaign. How do you know that you're getting what you're paying for? So to that end,
let's dive into it.
Let's dive into it. You take it away. Brad, I'm a marketer with a large company. What should I be looking for? How am I truly measuring the ROI of my campaign spend?
Sure. Well, ROI, return on investment. You're going to be spending dollars on influencer marketing. It's 2017. You're likely to be spending 6 figures if you're a fairly large organization, or more, or much, much more on an influencer marketing campaign. And the question is, what are you getting in return for those dollars? So it's an elementary question on one hand, but at the end of the day, I mean, this is why you're running these campaigns. So it's super important. We really want to make sure we spend a little bit of time on it. When we work with brands and agencies, there's 2 big buckets of why people are doing influencer marketing. The first one is branding. Hey, how can we get people to be aware of us, of our product, of our new product, of who we want to be? And the second is, how can we acquire customers? It's some call to action, whether it's maybe test driving or doing a trial, or at the end of the day, becoming a paying customer. So at the end of the day, it's either branding or acquisition.
Yep.
So let's start with branding, and maybe for purposes of this discussion, we're going to focus on YouTube. I think this will apply pretty generically across all different influencer marketing and social media platforms, but we're going to really focus our efforts on YouTube.
I agree.
Okay, perfect. So the first one is going to be the reach of the influencer campaign. So if you're running a YouTube video, how many people are looking at it? And oftentimes, even before how many people look at it, people are going to ask the question, well, how many subscribers are there to a channel? And so maybe let me pause here and ask you the question, how valuable to brands and to their agencies is a subscriber count for a YouTube host?
So it's fascinating. I've actually had conversations with folks who are pitching us shows for our clients, and I said, look, if you tell me what the subscriber is one more time, I guarantee I will not run on that show. I don't care about subscribers. I don't want to know about it.
Totally worthless metric.
Quit giving me subscribers, because you and I both know it's worthless. So that is that. I feel very strongly about paying 0 attention to subscribers.
No doubt about it. So hey, listen, all you brands out there, when you're having people really emphasizing the subscriber count on videos, be like, hey, 1, it's 2017. We all know this isn't relevant. And 2, that should be a serious red flag that they're trying to cover up some other important metric. So don't use subscribers when you're trying to decide what subscriber count when you're trying to decide what influencers are important. One thing that can be valuable though is views. So obviously, if you're trying to drive awareness, you want a lot of people to be able to watch your videos. So take a look at historical view count, those matter. Take a look at the trend. If the trend is not your friend, that means that the influencer is becoming less and less popular. Not necessarily a good thing, especially as the number of YouTube videos and the number of viewers of YouTube continues to increase.
Yep.
So views do matter, and so we would never say otherwise. There's a number of folks that are spectacular at creating videos that are viral, and we'll get into that a bit as far as some of the trends and some of our evaluation. But certainly, folks at Denizen, Harmon Brothers, they're outstanding in terms of creating viral videos. So you want to work with people who can deliver on view counts. The best way to do that is to look at historical averages and just throw out those viral videos, because those are really tough to predict.
Which begs the question, though: views matter, but are all views created equal?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. And I think this is something that we will touch on later, but it's worth just diving into right now. So a view count from someone, let's think about it in terms of your own life, right? So if your spouse, significant other, or someone, your best friend, tells you to go try a restaurant, it's highly likely that you will accept that and you're likely to go try out that restaurant.
Right.
But if you overhear two people that you don't know at all, one saying this exact same content in the same voice to someone else that you don't know, it's probably going to be in one ear and out the other.
It's
because
still
there's not a
interesting,
trust.
but less effective.
Exactly. And we see that all the time, right? Where you can have two hosts. Host A and host B have the same number of subscribers. Yes, I know I'm referencing subscribers. They have the same number of views. They have the same content area. They have the same gender. And you will see dramatically different response rates from the audience in terms of engagement, in terms of click-throughs, in terms of registering for a product, and in terms of actually purchasing a product. And that's the secret sauce of influencer marketing. At the end of the day is knowing where there's that trust and where there's not.
Right. Excellent. Okay, what else? We're
Okay.
still in branding.
Whew, let's go through
focus.
this. Yes. So subscribers know views important, but what's better than views are that you can still readily measure is engagement.
Yeah.
So when we say engagement, it's likes, it's shares, it's comments,
Yeah.
and that gives us a really strong indication of how connected the audience feels to a particular video, and that's an important
it
thing.
separates a casual viewer versus an invested viewer, and what we want to find is the invested viewer, not the casual viewer.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But there's one thing that we want to be careful about with engagement. I think back to my days in elementary school and middle school and all sorts of research that also supports Brad's anecdote. And the truth is, males tend to speak up more often than females. So for females out there, please speak up more. We need to hear your voice desperately. And that applies almost as much, if not more, on the internet, on YouTube comments as well. So we see a skew of male commenters versus female commenters. So when we're looking at the demographics from engagements, it's going to be skewed towards males, and that's something that we really need to be aware of. And also, it tends to skew a bit younger in terms of the people that are commenting. So someone who's 20 years old is much more likely to comment on a YouTube video than someone who's 50 years old. So engagements are important in terms of the overall numbers, but if you're targeting an older demographic, you need to be aware that you're going to see less engagement for that older demographic than a younger demographic.
Because those of us who are post 40 do not comment on YouTube videos.
And that's a wonderful thing that Joel can say about himself. He's very experienced. Okay.
All right.
So
let's wrap branding up.
yeah, for sure. So the next and probably most important thing that you're going to get a chance to see is the traffic that's going from YouTube following a link to a specific site. So this starts to get to a call to action, but you're not actually worried about customer acquisition. You're still in the awareness phase. We're trying to get someone from the YouTube platform, or again, any social media platform, and get them to go to your brand's webpage. So at that point, you've generated traffic. So you've been successful in terms of having an impression on someone seeing the YouTube video. Now they've actually clicked the link, they're engaged, they're interested in your product, and they've gone to the website. At that point, that's a fantastic branding experience for that individual.
Okay. Is there, before we leave that, is there an effective branding campaign that doesn't result in any kind of traffic driven? Does that have to be a component to really measure the ROI?
Not necessarily. It all comes back to what you're really trying to accomplish, right? So if you're a brand that people are very familiar with, so for instance, Coca-Cola, you want that impression. You want people to experience that positive emotion of seeing your product on camera, being engaged with. You don't need people to go to Coca-Cola's website because they're not going to learn anything new.
Right.
But is do you think it's fundamentally different depending on the product in terms of whether that's necessary?
Yeah, I think to your point, what's the product and what's the brand trying to accomplish? If it's association with a certain type of image or a certain type of activity, think Mountain Dew or Monster. Obviously, they only sponsor certain kinds. Red Bull, even better example, right? Red Bull's been very deliberate about what they sponsor and what they don't. They're not trying to drive traffic anywhere, but they want the image of Red Bull to be connected with extreme mountain biking and stunt flying and all the other assorted extreme sports. So
sure, and there's no one size fits all in terms of these metrics, right? So we just kind of want to give you a quick overview. So subscribers, view count, engagement, and then traffic that's generated to your website. Those are the big ways that you can evaluate the success of an ROI campaign. In terms of branding, there's certainly other things that you can do to measure brand lift. That's really going to understand how did your campaign impact people's view of your product or service. But at the end of the day, that's a more involved set of metrics,
and that gets expensive,
and it's costly. Okay, so that's branding. Let's quickly move on to acquisition and talk about that. I think this is actually pretty straightforward when it comes to what the ROI is. First thing is you want to be able to convert people from the platform onto your site. We see a big difference in terms of that click-through rate. You're doing very well if you're getting about 1% of the people who watch a video going over to your site. But for those people that have that magical connection with their audience and a great product fit, you can get up to 4+% of the people watching your video to click through.
So to that point, in terms of acquisition and influencer marketing, but specifically YouTube in this case, Thomason said that businesses are making $6.50 for every dollar spent on influencer marketing, according to a poll of professionals. Do you buy that number? 650 to 1.
That's a lot.
That seems high.
It does seem high to me too, but there's huge value in terms of branding. So when you do have those viral videos, if you're putting in some metric, I don't know how they calculated those numbers, but if there's some metric in terms of, hey, it's worth a penny per view to our brand for everyone who sees it, and you get a Mark Rober type video that goes viral, and you've got 20 million people watching it, that's going to skew that number. But practically speaking, I think that's
it seems high, but I think it's directionally right in that a dollar spent on influencer marketing does yield tremendous results, and you're not trying to claw out a 10 or 20% ROI for every dollar spent.
Right.
What you're reaping is far more than that. Okay, all right. So that's direct acquisition. What we're looking for is some kind of conversion, some kind of product sale. Okay. Is there anything else about measuring the ROI of the influencer campaign that we want to look at?
I think it's just a message that people need to make sure that they're aware is make sure you're getting the numbers, make sure you're understanding what your ROI is. This needs to be looked at comprehensively. So you don't want to look at influencer marketing just in a vacuum. You want to look at it as an overall part of your strategy. So I know one of our clients that we do work with, they're really happy with the ROI associated with an acquisition campaign. So we can track every single show to understand, hey, what's the cost and what's the benefit? And that part's really clear. But there's a whole other component to that which is measurable, which does deliver value to the business, but it's a little bit softer. And what they do is they have a survey for new customers, say, hey, how did you hear about our product or service? And it's a simple drop down, and the amount of new customers that come to them through YouTube platform, which is indeed the platform that we're using to run this campaign, drastically is a drastically higher number than the total number of acquisitions that we can track back to individual shows.
Yeah.
So people are finding out about the product or service through YouTube, and they're not even taking advantage of the special discount and link that's offered as part of it, but this is planting the seed and is actually changing their buying behavior.
And what we're seeing there is that YouTube is actually accounting for influencer campaigns within YouTube are accounting for a disproportionate percentage of unattributed traffic. When somebody hasn't come through a link, they haven't used a promo code, there's no other way to track them other than their self-reporting, they heard about it on YouTube.
So there's huge value there, and even when you're running an acquisition campaign, you're going to get this great halo effect associated with branding and vice versa. So that's a quick synopsis on ROI. I think it's probably time for us to turn the page to 2017 and talk about what trends we have here this year.
Okay, good. 2017. As we mentioned in the beginning, 2017 is going to be huge. More and more companies are figuring out that influencer marketing works, and now they're looking to do it in the most effective way. Marketers, this is what we're here for. We're here to help. We're here to help you spend your dollars well. So, with that in mind, big picture trends for 2017. Obvious, I'm a cord cutter, you're a cord cutter. We're going to see more and more cord cutters. And it was fascinating. One that this year, for the first time ever, football saw a decline in audience.
It is interesting, right?
That was the fail-safe. That was going to keep cable alive.
No
was
doubt
football
about it. Live
and was
sports.
news.
Yep.
Live sports and news both saw a decline, even in an election year, or at least maybe relative to what it was expected to be. But that fail-safe of sports and news.
As the great Bob Dylan said, times they are changing, and cord cutting will just continue to increase here in 2017.
So, two things that presents an amazing opportunity for digital influencers, and then two, of course, it is going to. There's a bit of pressure here because brands need to develop long-term partnerships with valuable digital influencers. Because you can't just go out and buy media the same way anymore. You've got a budget that you need to spend, not because that's an arbitrary thing, but because you've done an enormous amount of research and you know that you have to spend X amount to get X share of voice or whatever. Now TV is unavailable to you. So, but you can't just go spend that money. You can't throw it at a platform like TV or like display or like even pre-roll video. You can't do it and expect it to work the same way. It's not going to work the same way. So you've got to develop some kind of relationship with influencers in a way that's meaningful, in a way that they're gonna truly lend to your story and be able to tell your story in a compelling way. So sorry, I got totally off topic.
No, that's
We're
great.
talking about trends.
No, it is interesting too. I think there's starting to be some shaking out here of sort of winners and losers, and the smart brands are the ones that are tying themselves to those influencers in a long-term way, like you said. So there's a number of big brands that are starting to do that. I mean, shoot, we had something come across our desk yesterday where they wanted to lock up an influencer and some of the content for 5 years. I mean, this is the time to be able to really find influencers who have established themselves, who have staying power and fit with your brand. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that here in 2017.
Yeah, but there is a bit of a land grab right now because if you're in a significant product category, you're not going to lock that person up for a couple of years without really dedicating to that partnership and saying, look, we're going to make a big bet around this person and we really want to be connected to them.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And you got to be careful with that because I used to work for Accenture years and years ago, and Accenture worked with a celebrity, not influencer, and that's Tiger Woods, and almost their entire brand was centered around Tiger Woods until one fateful Thanksgiving Day. So you've got to be really careful.
Involved. I think it was a 6-iron and a Lincoln Navigator. All right. So.
Well, one other trend that I really want to get a chance to point out here is some of the things that we see, behind closed doors inside of corporations and agencies, and that is the shifting of dollars for influencer marketing from the communications team and the PR team over to the marketing team. And so what the implications of that are, one, it's really just a reflection of the fact that the industry is maturing. You can't just send your product to someone and expect them to advocate for it. You've really got to put dollars behind it. Us and the FTC require the fact that everything is above board, meaning you want to be clear to your audience when something is sponsored. People are smart. People are not going to appreciate if you're trying to do product placement or if you're trying to do something that is an ad, but try to make it seem integrated and not sponsored. That doesn't work. But what we are definitely seeing is this marketing team now saying, hey, listen, like Joel said early on, the vast majority of organizations are running influencer campaigns. And as part of that, we need to be really purposeful and spend those dollars with the influencers that best represent us. So again, it's moving more from, hey, influencers say this, right, through our comms department, to saying, hey, you're a trusted partner and a channel for us to acquire new customers or to be a trusted partner inside the sphere of influence of that influencer.
Yep. Agreed. Okay. Companies are getting overwhelmed, and they're limiting their options. What's your thinking there? You made that comment that the statistic here that only 52% of companies are working with 10 to 25 influencers. What's happening there, and what trend do you see there? Is it companies narrowing down the number that they're working with, or how do you see that shaking?
So what I see is now influencer marketing is something that's pretty mainstream. So companies now know, look, if I want a comprehensive, maybe an omni-channel marketing campaign, it's got to include an influencer marketing component. So now here comes a decision point for companies. Do I manage this myself? Do I run this through my agency of record? Do I work with an influencer marketing firm? And there's a big decision there, which we're not going to be able to get to all that. Maybe in a future episode we can unpack sort of that big decision. But what we're seeing is for those companies that are now diving into influencer marketing, they only have the bandwidth because of the time, energy, and effort it takes to successfully run an influencer campaign to work with those 10 to 25 influencers. So what we see is there's going to be an initial positive return for these companies because they are going to pick good influencers. People are smart. They're going to gravitate towards those influencers that are successful. They're not going to have the buying power that others in the industry would have. They're not going to be as savvy in terms of pricing and creativity about how to have the different approaches. But you're going to choose, at the end of the day, reasonably good influencers. But you're only going to be able to kind of dip your toe in the water in terms of what's possible for you out there with those 10 to 25 different influencers. So I suspect that number will continue to grow as organizations either, one, bring people on who are dedicated to influencer marketing, or two, partner with folks such as ourselves, right? Full transparency. That's what we do. We're an influencer marketing firm. And allow the breadth of knowledge and experience of influencer marketing firm to be able to support them in their marketing strategy here in 2017. So I think that's one thing that we continue to see internally. And then there was another big change fairly recently, right? In terms of the way YouTube was positioning ourselves. Is that something that you think is relevant here as part of a 2017 trend?
So yes, one very small trend though is ad blockers are going to change this. So again, back to my earlier point that you can't take that TV budget and go blast it out digitally. That doesn't work anymore because 70% of millennials are now using ad blockers. Ad blockers themselves have increased 34% since last year, and this is we're going to see this trend to continue. So again, your access to digital media, just in terms of getting eyeballs, regardless of their quality or not, is going to be severely limited. Hence, you got to go where the eyes are, and the eyes are on online video that is user-created content.
Especially for millennials, like you said. I think that's a really important point, right? Because
and they're already tough to reach, regardless.
Because they're not on cable.
Right.
They're obviously online, but now they're looking at ad blockers, 35% more this year versus last year. I mean, that's a really big challenge trying to approach those millennials.
Yep. Okay. Next big trend. This isn't a trend. We don't know where this is going to go.
True.
This is a big question mark.
Inflection point.
This is an inflection point. Is what's going to happen with YouTube, and what we suspect that YouTube still has not agreed or admitted they in fact did, but was a change in the algorithm in the latter half of this year. Obviously, you have some huge influencers that were consistently hitting a separate, a certain number of views month in, month out, day in, day out. And they've seen that dramatically reduced. Some of them we've seen upwards of 75% of their average views gone. So now, we've also seen in the last week, and whether this has something to do with the seasonality, whether YouTube took their foot off the gas a little bit with their algorithm change, who knows? But we have seen big producers start to swing back up toward closer to their historical average. Point is, some YouTube channels that were enormous and got caught in like a bit of a feedback loop, and so got watched and then got put onto the front page or the trending page more, or got recommended more, then got watched more, and this cycle, YouTube is attempting to correct that, and I think I do applaud them for doing that piece of it. I think they went about it in something of a clunky way, but that said, we're going to see a whole bunch of new shows.
We are.
Rise to stardom very, very quickly. And these could be fantastic. This could be amazing content that was like languishing in the unrecognized dungeons of YouTube, even though it was amazing content. And we've come across this. We've come across many shows. We're like, how is this not like? How is this getting 2 million views and this is struggling to get 20,000? Right. I think we are going to see a leveling there, and that's actually pretty exciting.
It is exciting.
But the big bets, again, back to how you spend your ad budget. Dropping a couple $100,000 on an integrated campaign for one of these huge YouTubers and expecting it to work and have the same punch that it did in 2016,
that's dangerous.
That's dangerous now. That becomes much more dangerous. So, again, a more of a portfolio approach of working with multiple influencers is probably going to be the safer strategy.
It is. Yeah, just one last comment on that. I know we want to try to move on here, but yeah, it is. I'm a little bit scared about some of the changes to YouTube because there's a possibility that there's going to be a reward for the amount of time that's watched, right, by the viewers. And so what happens is you have individuals who, by themselves, as individuals, can pump out great content once a month, maybe a couple of times a month, particularly with a lot of the science shows that we work with. And these are people that are truly experts in their field. And now as YouTube is rewarding content that's every single day, there's two people that can produce content that frequently. It's vloggers, and there's nothing wrong with vlog content, but it doesn't tend to be the absolute top of the intelligence, which is the content we like to see. And then the second one is corporations, big organizations that have the dollar and resources and can have 30 people working on a YouTube channel to produce it on
repurpose the content that on TV that nobody's watching, and now they're putting it on digital.
We're back to cutting the cord again, right?
We're back, which that's a fascinating conversation. All right, so yes, I agree, and it'll be fascinating to see. I really honestly believe, and if you work at YouTube, I'm speaking to you, I really, really believe that people at YouTube are smart enough, intelligent enough, and have the right frame of mind that they don't want their entire platform to be filled with NBC clips and vloggers. I just believe in your natural intelligence that you don't want that for your platform. And so whatever's going to happen, the really good content, the good history, the good science shows, just the things that are worthwhile to watch, that you're going to continue to make sure that rises to the surface and it gets seen by people, because that's really what makes the platform worthwhile.
Right.
Okay. Cat videos are only going to take you so far. It was interesting for a while, but it had to develop into something else.
By the way, on Snapchat, if you're not following Cakes One to Dough One, you're definitely missing out here. Audrey Spencer, spectacular influencer. Anyways, so we definitely need to move on here. So it's time for everyone's favorite segment: evaluate the campaign. So I'm going to kick off the question here. So there's a mattress company, Purple, which is a fascinating product. They have a wonderful grid system that's part of a bed that can be delivered to your home. They have rolled out not necessarily an influencer campaign, but certainly a social media campaign that has been really large on YouTube in terms of pre-roll ads. So they've gotten to a point where they have the raw egg test. It's a video that many of you seen, 20 million views of this video. And we wanted to sort of challenge this a little bit to see what's good about it, what's bad about it. So let's just start your general thoughts. What's your general thoughts on the raw egg test?
So I love it. I love it as a as a made-for YouTube ad, it nailed it as an ad. It was a few minutes long. They had a clever tie-in with Goldilocks and Too Hard, Too Soft and all that. Like that was one. The company that actually does this, the guys behind this, it's a company, it's an agency called the Harmon Brothers, right? And I think there are 4 brothers that all run this phenomenal creative shop together.
Do
I
great
think
work.
they were the guys behind the Squatty Potty video.
Squatty
They were
Potty and Poopery.
and Poopery. Like these were absolutely brilliant ads. They're about 3 to 4 minutes, so it's not made for TV. It is made for digital, and they're brilliant. Like they're absolutely fantastic. So I aspire to that kind of creativity and the humor. I love what they did. Now, when it comes to Purple's actual execution of that, they had this phenomenal resource in that this funny, humorous ad that had this element to like this test, like this egg test, which a handful of people grabbed onto on YouTube and when they got a Purple mattress, they tried to break the egg on the mattress, which was great. But like when I look at that, I just see this enormous opportunity staring me in the face to have created something using influencers that would have many multiples of the punch that Purple probably actually received from it.
All views are not created equal, I believe you said earlier in the video.
All views are not created equal. So somebody's going to watch like, hey, they'll watch out of interest, will the egg really break?
Right.
Totally different than using that fantastic content, bringing in a couple of influencers. That's what I would love to have seen. They could have brought in a couple of influencers to come alongside and supplement that content. Why does the egg not break? You have a scientist. The guy who designed the mattress for Purple was a former rocket scientist. Hey, we work with rocket scientists,
Yes.
2 of them actually, that probably knew the guy. And like there would have been an incredible opportunity to have somebody talk with him. How did you think of this? What was the impetus for coming up with this idea? What's the backstory here? It could have been a fantastic, and then they could have gone any number of places. But you have an influencer coming alongside, like really highlighting one of the most interesting aspects of this story, that it was created by this rocket scientist, and then that combined with a challenge to, hey, anybody who gets this mattress by using this link, what I want you to do is I want you to do the egg test. Test it. Send me video of it. You can send me video via Snapchat, via Instagram, via Facebook, and you create this whole social piece of it.
Agreed.
Now you've
More
got
engagement.
But people are hearing about the egg test, and then taking it because they heard about it over here. They're coming about like, oh, my friend did this egg test, and then they're tracing that back to the mattress instead of starting with some paid ad that they saw on YouTube, which is good. It's really good, but there's an enormous opportunity missed there.
I kind of hate to even bring this up, but it's like the ice bucket challenge in a lot of ways. Like the egg test would be a great way to be able to engage people and your customers. People love to share that sort of stuff.
Right.
I'm still shocked that you didn't think that the sketchy guy who doubled as a scientist with the long hair and the pencil mustache and looked like he should be driving a full-size conversion van from 1983 wasn't credible like scientists like
We're gonna put a link of that here. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Is that was too a missed opportunity because there are actual scientists who have fantastic followings on YouTube
who aren't sketchy,
who don't look like they're going to wind up in a police lineup in a very short amount of time. Yes, they could have explained that.
Here's another thing I think was interesting that I thought that they missed. So they actually did talk about product features in there. They talked about price. They did encourage people to go to the website. But that got lost. Like when Joel was talking about, when you were talking about your thoughts of the video, you talk about the amazing creative content. You think about Goldilocks, the egg drop challenge. It was like, stick to what's going to work on one single ad, right? Just stick with it as a branding campaign, and then pick it up with the influencers. They could try to drive traffic, as part of it. But I thought some of that got lost in the shuffle. And while there was a lot of sharing of the video, it was shared because it was fun, it was exciting, it was entertaining.
Yeah.
The actual elements of trust were also something that we're lacking.
We're lacking. Yeah.
I mean, we know that millennials in general do not trust messages delivered by brands, yet this was a message delivered by a brand by a woman who's dressed as Goldilocks, dropping eggs on mattresses. So it was entertaining.
It was a message delivered by a brand in the best possible way, but it was still a message delivered by a brand.
Right.
And so that's going to limit you automatically to a certain level of receptivity.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, that was a great video, something that Harmon Brothers deserves a lot of credit for. But the overall campaign could have really benefited from some thinking from an influencer component. And this is a great example of how you really need to tie everything together, and you can't just look at different elements of a branding campaign independently.
Yep. Okay. So here's last challenge, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll land this plane. You have a channel that has become wildly successful as a gun channel. Okay, it features new firearms, it features different kinds of ammunition. A lot of things get blown up. There's a lot of humor thrown in, and all of a sudden you've got this over the course of a year, you go from a relatively modest gun channel to one that is absolutely incredible, right? And it's an enormous audience and all that. So all the advertising that has been done on this channel has been kind of tangential to what the actual content is, right? Mm-hmm. So, and it's fine. It's very tangential. Like, hey, thanks to XYZ brand for coming along and sponsoring it. Doesn't have anything to do with the content, right? Now, this channel gets approached by a video game. Now, the host has never played a video game on this channel. There's never been mentions of video game. There's never been a video game tie-in before. Right. None of it. And they get approached by a video game. So here's the challenge. They've got reasonable budget. They're good to work with. The video game he's not going to be able to do a let's play, right? He's not going to be able to do a walkthrough. He's not a gamer. Yeah, that's obviously not going to work. So how do you do an effective influencer campaign with these elements of a gun channel in a video game company? But there's no natural tie-in whatsoever.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, I think this is great. So amazingly, this is a real example of something that we had a chance to be a part of. Yep. Full disclosure, we represent Matt Carriker from Demo Ranch, and we got a chance to work with World of Tanks and their agency and had a great experience. So what happened was World of Tanks, a video game that's played by over 100 million people worldwide, and just for context, only 138 million people voted in the recent presidential election. So that's more people that play World of Tanks than voted for Donald Trump or voted for Hillary Clinton. So a lot of people, right? And they've run campaign after campaign with gamers historically. And now they're going and saying, well, what if we worked with this gun channel? What if we worked with Demo Ranch and it was brilliant? Because instead of trying to push a product to a community where everyone already knows about you, gaming, they said, let's go to people who care about guns, who care about explosives, who care about tanks. And let's let them know about this video game. Because these might be people who play video games a few times a year, but who really are passionate about being able to blow stuff up. And lo and behold, what happens? Matt Carriker of Demo Ranch, along with Rob from Lunkers TV, got a chance to go to drive tanks in Texas and actually drive a tank. And the most beautiful part about this was it was seamlessly integrated with Demo Ranch. And those of you that follow the channel will know that Matt Carriker, the host, has been trying to figure out an epic way to dispose of his old pickup truck for a long time.
It was the pickup truck was on the way out, and it needed to go out in fitting fashion.
And how did it happen?
So this was what was fantastic is the tie-in here. We were able to, by going to Drive Tanks, they're able to talk about tanks and therefore a tank video game in a very natural, unassuming way, in a way that's not going to piss off the audience. The audience is going to get the connection. It's authentic to who Matt is because he legitimately likes the game and he likes playing it. And he could authentically say, hey, I'm not just putting in some random walkthrough because I'm getting paid for it. He can authentically say, this is a cool game, and hey, thanks guys, because you're helping me with a legitimate problem that I had, which was how to dispose of my truck. So now they can go and they can line up an actual tank and fire a shell about that long right through the tank twice. And that was absolutely fantastic. And then to boot, after having driven a shell, or shot a shell through, he was able to drive the tank over the truck, and it was an amazing end to what had been a
Check it out.
fantastic.
Links in the description.
Links in the description. Anyways, it was a really clever way for World of Tanks to expand to a show that doesn't do any walkthroughs, that doesn't do any let's plays, and they weren't tied to the one model that had worked.
Right.
They were willing to expand and say, okay, how do we partner in really interesting and creative ways where we're still being completely above board,
Right.
that we are
Sponsored
sponsoring this
video.
channel. This is a sponsored video. We want to
100%.
drive traffic. The call to actions, it's fine, it's totally appropriate, but we're going to do it in a way that respects the content on the channel and honors what the host has built here. We're going to respect that, and we're going to come in and participate in it. We're not going to come in and dictate. And that's what I loved about how they went about it.
Absolutely. It was definitely a great way to send out 2016 with a bang. And we're super excited about 2017 and where the market's going. So we talked about a lot today. We talked about ROI of campaigns. We talked about the trends. We talked about how you can take a campaign that's focused on social media and really integrate that in with an influencer component that's going to be really successful. So we covered a lot of ground
We covered
today,
a lot.
huh?
Again, if you've made it this far, we really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. This is Joel and Brad signing off from episode 2 of Thinking Out Loud. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye from Detroit.
We'll be right back.